as you look at this Commanders roster, you look at this Commanders team, I think if you see the world through burgundy and gold colored glasses, my man Jeff probably sees a 12-win team out there. I think if you you look at last year, they won 5 games. We're now 2 seasons into the Adam Peters, Dan Quinn experiment. And 1 year was fantastic. 12-5, got all the breaks, made it to the NFC title game. Did get worked in the NFC title game, but they got there. Last year was a disaster. Injuries, bad luck, terrible defense. So, it's hard to know who this organization is. It was, almost bipolar. They were almost like the inverse of each other.
Yeah, 12-5 to 5-12.
Right.
Literally.
Now, I do know, so when the question is, who faces more heat this year, Dan Quinn or Adam Peters? One thing you got to understand about life in the NFL, on game day, generally, the GM, in most places, the GM is sitting with the owner. So as a game unfolds and things go wrong, the GM is able to say to the owner, damn, why is he doing that? Right? Whereas the coach is down on the field and just that's the man in the arena, right? So the bonds between a general manager and an owner tend to be higher than the bonds between the coach and the owner, or the coach and the general manager are kind of seen as one sometimes. Like you just saw this in New York with Joe Schoen. Joe Schoen's been terrible.
Awful.
But because he watches the games with the Mara family, Joe Schoen got an extension. They had to get rid of Daboll. They kept Joe Schoen. He got an extension. Apparently he and Harbaugh work well together. I've met Joe Schoen a number of times. He's a charismatic dude. I can understand why they wanted to work with him versus Daboll's a jerk. I can see how that schism occurred.
Yeah.
And Schoen comes out the better side, right? Now, here in Washington, AP and DQ seem pretty tied at the hip. But if they have another bad season, I think if you don't win at least 7 games, Dan Quinn knows the reality of this business. If you go 5-12 and then what would that be, 6-11, it's gonna be really hard to outrun that storm for the head coach. But I think Peters is okay, kind of regardless.
Yeah.
Just because those bonds are different. But I do think specifically with this Ayuk situation, I think the Commanders were interested in Brandon Ayuk. They were interested in not trading for him, but bringing him in once he got released to 1-year incentive-laden deal. I think there was real interest there. That calculus has gotten more complicated, and that's going to fall on AP. I think there's a lot of pressure on both of them. For me, there's more pressure on Dan Quinn.
Yeah, I think that...
More immediate pressure.
100%. There's a chance here that... And I think this goes back to a little bit of what we were talking about last segment with the wide receiver conversation. It kind of depends upon what your expectations for the year are. If you're expecting and you say that 7 or 8 wins is fine, then this receiving core is probably fine. But if you want to see this team get to the playoffs once again and just give yourself a chance to maybe go on another magical run with Jaden Daniels at the helm and try to get to at least 10 wins, then maybe it's not good enough. And I think that's kind of where Dan Quinn is, where I think that fans will probably be calling for DQ's job even if they just win 7 or 8 games, JP. If they don't make the playoffs, fans are probably calling for DQ's job, and I think rightfully so. And that's just kind of the territory it comes with. But I think that Adam Peters does deserve some heat here because you mentioned the Ayuk situation, and I think this is where he misplayed his hand a little bit. I think part of the reason that we're looking at the receiving core right now the way that it is and we're having these discussions is because they're just kind of banking on Ayuk. And you should have known that banking on Ayuk as a wild card is going to bring some extra stuff with it. And now you're seeing some of that extra stuff, and it makes it so that maybe you sign Ayuk and he's fine, and we all look back and go, yeah, it was a crazy saga, but he's a good football player. It also could blow up, and then it comes back to hurt you as the general manager that decided it was worth it to sign this guy when there were other options available. Stephon Diggs is someone we've talked about a lot this offseason, and similar type of vein where there's some off-field things, but on the field, he's a good football player still. You saw what he did last year in New England. But it's even other options. They explored the Alec Pierce thing. I think that would have been a mistake to pay him that much money. But I go back to, we talked about this when he just got signed to Minnesota, Juwan Jennings. And I was not in on Juwan Jennings at the beginning of free agency because I thought he was going to get overpaid. And then to see the contract he got in Minnesota, it seems like Washington should have been in. And then Keim reports that Washington was never really in on him. And, if you get beat out, that's one thing. If Minnesota signed him and you never got a
number you're uncomfortable with,
yeah,
right?
like that's one thing. For them not to be interested, it tells me that Ayuk was the plan. And I think going in with a plan on someone as wild as Ayuk is, it's a little bit, now you're seeing it. Like you're putting yourself in a tough spot where now you almost have to make that move because you kind of planned on it, and he's put you in a bad spot where it's probably not the right move at this rate.
Joe is in Manassas. Joe, whose seat is hotter, AP or DQ?
What's up, guys? Love the show as always.
Thanks,
to be
bud.
honest, I think honestly they came in together, right? They're going out together. The reason why, and JP, you made up a good point that the general manager watches the games with the owner, correct?
Yeah.
So that being said, why wouldn't the owner be like, well, you hired this bum? Like I would be sitting there being like, hey man, well you hired this guy. That's a direct reflection of you, isn't it? Doesn't it start at the top? So
yeah.
I personally think that they're going to go out together. If they have a bum season this year, I think the ownership's going to be like, "Hey, man, you laid with this guy, so let's go."
It's a good call, man. I appreciate you. We'll open the phones, 800-636-1067, 800-636-1067. The other, I think, interesting, perhaps complicating factor here, at the end of this season will be the first time the Commanders can negotiate an extension with Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
And I think there is a school of thought, a group of people, and I think to some degree fairly, that don't believe the organization has done enough for Jaden from a weapons perspective.
Yeah.
Right?
I'd be one of those.
And you start to wonder what Jaden thinks. If Jaden loves the way everything's been run. And not to suggest that a quarterback should run the operation, but when you see let's say Jaden has another really good season. Like that'd be 2 really good seasons out of 3. And quarterbacks have influence. Quarterbacks should and do have influence. Like, dude, you know what just happened in Baltimore? Lamar said it's him or me with Harbaugh.
Yeah.
And Bisciotti picked the quarterback. Maybe that thing had just kind of run its course over time, but like quarterbacks have influence. And that's going to be another factor in all of this because the money, everything's about to change.
Yeah, and I also don't think that while AP and DQ have been tied together at the hip, I don't think AP is going to pull the Mike Rizzo, Davey Martinez thing from last year. Remember, Mike Rizzo would not fire Davey, and so ownership said both of you are gone then. I don't think that Adam Peters is going to necessarily tie himself to any one coach the same way most general managers in the NFL do not do that, right? Like, you might work well together, but if it's not working, we'll move on from the guy because it's just not working. And I think Adam Peters, to his credit, you get a lot of cash in the bank when you draft Jaden Daniels, and you're correct about that. You get a lot of cachet for that. Now, some of the stuff, like his draft classes in future years outside of the first round, have been a little bit questionable. You go back to even the Jaden Daniels year, 6 picks inside the top 100, and Jaden was a home run hit, and the rest of them were, mediocre to bad in some cases. So there are some good and bad. Laramie Tunsil trade, I think, is a net positive. The Marshawn Lattimore trade is a net negative, right? So there are little things going back and forth there. But I don't think that it's something that Adam Peters is, unless this Ayuk situation goes where they sign him and then it blows up, I don't think he's on the hot seat by any means. I think that DQ definitively is, because if they have a mediocre season, I think that he is probably going to be gone. But I do think it is something that you have to evaluate Adam Peters and understand that just because he drafted Jaden Daniels doesn't mean it makes up for every sin that he's committed while he's here.
Right. A lot of folks want to weigh in on this. Mike is in Annapolis. Mike, what do you think? Hot seat.
Hey, what's up, guys?
How you doing, bud?
So, I'm doing all right. I want to go back. I think it was a couple days ago, a couple weeks ago. JP, you were talking about how the Commanders cannot comment on Ayuk because he's under contract.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. Can they go out there and field a question and then answer it along the lines of, we feel comfortable with what we have in the building moving forward?
They've said that repeatedly.
Speaking.
They've said that repeatedly.
Yeah.
Like all of them have said that 100 times.
So do you read between the lines on that for the Ayuk thing? Does that kind of settle the camp a little bit?
No, I don't think so. I think what they could do that they haven't, and this is not their style, like they are extremely closed off. They do not want to get involved
Agreed.
in the media. They could easily, I mean, they have my number. You could text me, you could text Kime, you could text Nikki, they could text Schefter, they could text Rapp, Garofolo. They very easily
they could text me too.
They could text you, Mike. They very easily could put the word out that they're out of the Ayuk business.
Yeah, 100%.
And like, just
I agree.
Just if Mike Garofolo tweets out, just so we're clear, Washington is not like it can like Brandon Ayuk continues to say he's going to the Commanders. Per a league source, the Commanders are not interested.
Correct.
That could happen, no problem, and it hasn't.
Gotcha.
So, appreciate the call, Mike.
All right, thanks.
See you, buddy. Let's go to Kenny in Largo. Kenny, what do you think about the hot seat?
What up, JP? Toby, how y'all doing, man?
We're good, bud. How are you?
I'm good. So, my personal opinion, I believe Adam Peters should be on the hot seat more than DQ. I mean, DQ, he a player's coach, man. Like, players want to run through a brick wall for him. And Adam Peters, he the one who made all them trades for Lattimore, bought all these old players. That's why the reason we was slow and all that last year. I mean, we just was in the championship 2 years ago. So I'm not blaming DQ for our failure. And I don't think he should be in the hot seat, even if we did have another, bad season or okay season. I feel like Adam Peters should get looked at. You don't want bringing these people in, too.
Fair. Thank you.
About it.
Thanks for the call, bud.
I will say the one thing for DQ, and he talked about this at OTAs and minicamp, and I'll be interested to see how he follows through on it. The thing that I'm most interested for him, fans are going to be very frustrated if it's another light training camp. I don't think that it's going to be. He said it's going to be their most intense, most competitive one yet, but they cannot come out of the gate slow because he may feel that way right now, our last caller, but if they start 0-4, he ain't going to feel that same way then. So that's the thing. If Dan Quinn goes out and they have the team ready to go and they come out playing well, then maybe you can feel that way, but they're going to have to change up the way that they've approached training camp. They're going to be ready to go out of the gate, or they're going to end up in a hole that maybe AP and DQ can't dig themselves out of.
More competitive is great. They need to be more physical.
Yes.
Like, I saw at minicamp a greater... Things were running faster. Like, I still can't confirm if this is a word or not, but there was greater rapidity. Like, there was more rapid action. And granted, you're also trying to install 2 new systems on both sides of the ball, so you need as many reps as you can get.
And it's not just because the guys are faster. There was a sense of urgency.
Yes. Camp needs to mirror that. I applaud DQ for recognizing the status quo was not working and making changes. Camp has to look different. And as somebody that's there every day, you get to see the flow of it. And I agree with the caller there. It's interesting to get a pro DQ call coming off 5-12. And let's be clear. I think you and I both would say let's go 10-7 and not have to have this conversation.
Correct.
But it's an interesting time right now as you gear up for what is coming. Let's go to Ward in Ashburn. What's up, Ward?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, dude.
I think that Adam Peters should be on the hot seat no matter what. Personally, just because it's been 2 years in a row. I mean, I'd give him some credit this year just because of free agency. It's been 2 years where Washington's had almost the most cap space, and this year was the 1 year where they did mainly a lot with it, with the big signing from big dude in Seattle. But I also just think that him banking on Ayuk to basically just be released from the 49ers when everybody's known that this is going to be a fiasco from the start. But second, I think that no matter what, the wide receiver room should have been a huge focus, and it hasn't been for the past 2 years, and it's just been kind of a question mark in the whole roster, and I think that's one thing that's really setting Washington back.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair question, and they've continued to try to draft that position,
Yes.
and at least so far, the draft picks haven't hit at that position. Thanks for the call, dude.
And one of the things that I thought was interesting when we were having this discussion last year about paying Terry McLaurin or not is so many people pointed out, well, Jaden can get it done without having an elite wide receiver. And I have utmost confidence in Jaden. So I believe that statement. When you say, you could throw 3 Jags out there with Jaden, he can probably figure it out. Assuming health and, a good scheme, I do believe that. But that's not how he should be operating on a rookie contract, JP. That's the point of it. Like, if he's making Patrick Mahomes money where he's making $500 million, then sure. Tell him to get it done with one guy and Terry McLaurin and a bunch of Jags. But when you've got him on the rookie contract, that's when you should be able to help him out and try to maximize that. And I don't think they've necessarily done that. Now, Jaden's so special, assuming health this season, I think he'll go out there and have another really, really good season and, hopefully is a Pro Bowler and an all-pro candidate. But I don't want to have to live that way in year 3 for a young quarterback.
Let's go to Manny in Southeast. Manny, what's up, dude? Where do you weigh in on the hot seat?
Fellas, hey, listen. I really don't think there's anyone's on a hot seat unless we, like he said, we start out 0-4, 0-5. Because if they really thought they was on a hot seat, do you think they would have instituted two rookie
coordinators?
Coaches, coaches. Yeah. 2 rookie coaches on each side of the ball. Especially when our defense was trash.
It's a fair question, dude. And there was all this talk of the turnover from the Rivera era where the drafting was you can't be playing that card.
It's 3 off seasons.
And one more thing. These guys forget that we 2024. It's only been 2 years. 2024, we said let Adam cook. So in 2025, he cooked. Got hurt. It's only been 2 years. We act like we going through a Ron Rivera, Daniel Snyder era all over again. It's been 2 years. We had 1 year to the NFC Championship. We had 1 where everybody got hurt, and we didn't do that good. Of course we're not going to do that good. You know what I mean? Like I was saying earlier in recent combos, everybody talk about we good with the wide receiver room we got, but they still complaining about the performance on offense. It's impossible.
Manny, it's a good call, bud. Thank you. I appreciate the call, Manny. I do think fans' perspectives may not match ownership's perspective
100%.
on wanting to give this time. And, dude, both those guys probably signed 5-year deals, and Josh Harris doesn't like paying people not to work.
Yeah.
Like, you've seen it in the NBA. He's given Sixers coaches long leashes. Let's sneak Kevin in real quick. Kevin, what do you think, man?
What's up, Kevin?
Hey, thanks for taking me. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think that Peter should be on the hot seat. I think he's made some terrible draft picks, some terrible trades. The Kinlaw thing last year was a total joke, and that's backfiring. I don't know why they paid him that big money, and the Lattimore trade was terrible. I think he's the bigger problem than Quinn.
The Lattimore trade was terrible. The Kinlaw stuff I find interesting because I think the way people viewed his cash versus the reality of the cash at that position,
right,
he was paid like a second-tier dude. I mean, if you look just at AAV for what Kinlaw got, I mean, he's probably top 20, I would say. I mean, you can argue if he's a top 20 player or not, but I do think the conversation around his pay outpaces the reality of what he got related to his position group in the NFL. Now, he also played 17 games and had 0 sacks. So, I get...
Yeah, I think the tough part is I think there were guys that you could have got much cheaper that maybe could have given you what from our amateur eyes, a similar type of production. And real quick, the only issue I have with part of the reason why I would consider moving on is because last season, watching this team, it was something where it wasn't just injuries. Well, did it play a major role?
Right.
Sure. But I watched this football team have a healthy game and they just didn't look good. So it's not just, they were injured and they'll be back to
the Vikings
being just
game
fine.
Was the first fireable offense of the new regime.
Yes.
They came out flat, off a bye, and it was a disaster.
Yes.
And I said it then, and I stand by that. That was the first, what are these dudes doing? It's not good enough. Now, they did respond late in the year and get some wins, but complicated issue.